Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you our nightly update on the tropics. We will be doing something a slight bit differently here tonight. When we get out to the other basins, we are literally going to do a quick shot at it. I'm not going to get in depth with it. I did not pull up any models on it. We're just going to kind of show it as a last little blip and then go on about our business. All right. We've had some changes with the 5 p.m. advisory. As you can see, Melissa is now a hurricane as of the 2 p.m. Intermediate advisory and has intensified quite significantly over the 3 hours that it was classified as a hurricane. Taking a look at the most recent infrared mesoscale loop. As you can see, we have a very strong core of this system starting to get its act really together here, folks. All preparations into Jamaica need to be rushed to completion immediately. And then, folks, you're going to have to shelter in place, perhaps for a few days, as this storm slowly, about at the speed of a turtle, decides that it wants to move over the next couple days. It's like being stalked by a tortoise. That's kind of how I feel with this. So, as of the 5 p.m. advisory, Melissa is located at 16.6 north, 75.5 west, about 130 miles southeast of Kingston, Jamaica, and approximately 250 miles west southwest of Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Maximum sustained winds have increased to 90 miles an hour. It was 75 at the 2 p.m. We've jumped 15 in 3 hours. It is now moving west, or 275 degrees at 3 miles an hour. Again, it's like being stalked by a tortoise. Minimum central pressure has dropped down to 974 millibars. With this advisory, the government of Cuba has issued a hurricane watch for the Cuban provinces of Granma, Santiago de Cuba, Guantanamo, and Holguin. We currently have a hurricane warning in effect for Jamaica. We also have a hurricane watch in effect for the areas there in Cuba and for the southwestern peninsula of Haiti from the border of the Dominican Republic to Port-au-Prince, and a tropical storm warning in the same area for Haiti. Interest elsewhere in Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, and southeastern and central Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos Islands should monitor the progress of Melissa. Now, here we are, hazards affecting land, the most important part. And unfortunately, we have had some changes, and they are not good. Everything has raised in values for our hazards affecting land from the 11 a.m. primary advisory to the 5 p.m. And this is heartbreaking, and it's going to be kind of tough to read because I know what's going to happen. Tropical storm conditions are expected to begin in Jamaica by tonight, with hurricane conditions expected by Sunday or Monday. Tropical storm conditions are expected and hurricane conditions are possible within the watch and warning area in Haiti later today. Hurricane conditions are possible in the watch area in eastern Cuba on Tuesday into Wednesday. This is where it gets real bad, folks. Rainfall. Melissa is expected to bring total rainfall of 15 to 30 inches to portions of southern Hispaniola and Jamaica into Wednesday, with local maxima of 40 inches possible. Additional heavy rainfall is likely beyond Wednesday, but exact storm totals are still uncertain. Catastrophic flash flooding and landslides are probable across portions of southern Hispaniola and Jamaica. For eastern Cuba, total rainfall of 6 to 12 inches with local amounts of 18 inches are expected into Wednesday, resulting in life-threatening flash flooding and landslides. Additional heavy rainfall is likely beyond Wednesday, but exact storm totals are still uncertain. Storm surge. A life-threatening storm surge is becoming more likely along the south coast of Jamaica later in the weekend or early next week. Peak storm surge heights could reach 9 to 11 feet above ground level near and east of where the center of Melissa makes landfall. This storm surge will be accompanied by large and destructive waves. 9 to 13 feet, folks. It was 7 to 11 at the previous primary advisory. So it's gone up 2 feet overall. And now we are looking at 9 to 13 feet above ground level. And there is a potential for significant storm surge along the southeastern coast of Cuba early next week. As far as the surf is concerned, we have a rapidly intensifying hurricane in the Caribbean. Please stay out of the water. We don't need more risks. Now, with the forecast cone, I've got the interactive map out here because, unfortunately, it does not show the potential rainfall, but we can put the track on there. This is where the Hurricane Center, the National Hurricane Center, has their center line. I don't necessarily like to use their center line because, you know, that makes people think that it is going to guarantee to make landfall right here. That may not be the case. There is still some uncertainty. That's why the National Hurricane Center uses what's known as the cone of uncertainty. But here's my problem. And I've got very, very large concerns here. This eastern portion of the island, I addressed this earlier this afternoon in our 1 p.m. live, and I am definitely going to talk about it here again this evening, and I will again tonight. This part right here, the eastern portions of the island of Jamaica, I've got very, very large concerns for you guys here. This Cornwall Barracks, Pumpkin Hill, Shrewsbury, Cooling Spring, Claverty Cottage, Cedar Valley, Nonsuch. I don't know if people, or how many people may live in this region. I am sure that there are homes and stuff like that in this region. I know it's a national park, but there's got to be areas outside of that national park where I am sure people reside. I cannot stress this enough. We are looking at some unbelievable rainfall totals, and I am going to go right there. Our rainfall totals have increased dramatically, and as you can see, the thing that has me the most concerned here right now, granted, we're looking at, we have forecasted Category 5 impacts, or Category 5 intensity, maybe not impacts, but intensity. Look at this. Possible up to 40 inches on that eastern side here in this mountainous terrain on the eastern edge of the island. I can't think of anything much worse than this, because the landslides, the flooding, the washed out infrastructure, the roads, everything, all of this is going to potentially decide that it's going to relocate. I'm not saying that it's going to, there's going to be areas of land slips to where the whole side of the hill just comes off. And I am afraid that if folks are up here in this region, that with the flooding that we saw, especially after what we saw in North Carolina and South Carolina last year with Hurricane Helene here in the United States, I am very, very afraid of what that area that I have here pulled up on the screen is going to look like. There's way too many mountains, and all that water is going to seek its lowest level regardless, and it's not going to care what's in its path. And unfortunately, it's got to flow out somewhere. And all those areas in and along the coastlines and stuff like that, if you've got a river, a creek, a tributary, anything that comes off of this mountain and runs near where you live, you may seriously want to evacuate. Seek higher ground, but not too high. You need to get out of this hilly terrain if possible. My personal opinion, And this is just a personal opinion. This has no professionalism behind it whatsoever. If you could get out to the western edge of the island, I would. That may be your best place. That being potentially on the left side of the circulation and not catching all of that onshore flow. You would at least have the opportunity. Granted, you're going to see great range, you're going to see flooding, you're going to see winds, but you are not going to see the 40 plus inches of rain of what we're looking at here. And if you look on the west end of the island, we're looking at potentially just 2 to 4 inches of rain. So it is hopefully going to lead to a scenario to where maybe we have a spot on the island that at least allows to where the recovery process can begin from. Because 40 inches, possible up to 40 inches of rain, I don't care whether you were on flat land, I don't care where you were. 40 inches of rain in 4 days time frame, it doesn't matter where you're at. That is catastrophic flooding. I don't care. You could be in southern Florida in the most flat land possible to where you could look as far as you want and you're never going to see a hill. Now 40 inches, you are seriously talking about catastrophic flooding. And then that doesn't, negate the fact that our friends over here in Haiti on the southwestern peninsula of Haiti on the Tiburon Peninsula. I mean, we're looking at isolated 30 plus inches with a widespread 16 to 20 or 400 to 500 millimeters. And then even for the folks down here into the Dominican Republic, maybe an isolated 20 inches. I mean, we're talking about catastrophic rains here, folks. You run from the water, you hide from the wind. Run. This one's not good. That's the most that I could say is run. Pulling up the forecast cone in a more format that, more kind of normal format for people to look at there. As we could see, we do have some of those tropical storm force winds now approaching there on the eastern portion of Jamaica. And we also have tropical storm force winds, the wind field there on the southwestern portions of Haiti. The airports in Jamaica will shut down in 1 hour and 45 minutes as of right now. Me saying that. Shuts down at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And at that point, it's over. Please seek sturdy shelter and rush all preparations to completion. The radar out of Jamaica, we can very clearly see the eye of Melissa really starting to organize. We saw that burst of extremely cold cloud tops on the infrared satellite, and Melissa is on its way to becoming an extremely dangerous situation. We have our 18Z spaghetti plots. The National Hurricane Center current intensity is calling for 140 knots, though we do not have those values with our models. But please don't be fooled. The Google DeepMind is not messing around with this. It might say 125 knots. I'm going to show you plenty that are going to argue with that for sure. The HCCA, this is the consensus aid, and as we can see, it has shifted just a little bit back to the left, and that really puts Kingston right in the crosshairs of this, and potentially those catastrophic inner core winds, or those eye wall winds, going over some very populated areas and in that exact same mountain range that I have been trying to highlight, and hopefully we can get everybody out of there, because I remember vividly what Helene did to the mountain range in the Western Carolinas. And I'm afraid that we are going to see something similar, if not worse, in eastern portions there of Jamaica. The trends, our model trends, the GFS, as you could see, has slid back well to the left with the 12Z run. That is now in alignment with the Euro. The UK Met has finally decided to kind of try to join the party, is just off of the western tip of the island there. The CMC, again, right off the western tip of the island. I really, though, it hasn't performed very well at all throughout this. The H Wharf, as it was on the western edge of the island. Now it has come over more towards kind of the west central portions of the island. Again, we are looking at Cat 4, but the official forecast is Category 5 at some point in time. The HMON has this again, probably about central, maybe west central portions of the island. Here coming in, Category 4 intensity. Halves A, we are looking at kind of in and around, again, around the Kingston area. But Halves A, unfortunately, does bring this to a Category 5, which is the official forecast. Now, granted, Halves A is a little bit stronger than the official forecast. But once you're a Category 5, it doesn't matter. Even a high-end Cat 4. I mean, if the winds are 150 miles an hour outside, and that would be a high-end Cat 4, and then they tell you it's going to be, oh no, it was 160, I promise you, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. You won't be able to tell the difference at all. I've tried to stand in 115, 120 mile an hour winds before. And believe me when I tell you, you're not going to know the difference. Whether it is 115 or 120 or 130, 140, you're really not going to know the difference at all. The one thing that you are going to know is that it is extremely strong, and things will be most likely flying around outside. Now, Halves B, as far as its forecast, again, kind of same place in and around the Kingston area. And though Halves B wants to get it to a mid-grade Cat 4, but by the time that we get up this strong with the wind speeds, again, the damage is done. And it's going to be severely impactful and take a great amount of time to perform the recovery processes and the rebuilding processes, because a lot of things are going to end up being changed after this storm exits. The TC coamps, as you can see, they're into the kind of in and around the area of Kingston again. Maybe the whole Old Harbor area, and though it only wants to get this up to a mid-grade Cat 3, again, the forecast is for officially now a Category 5. There is our HCCA again, slid back just a little bit to the west. That brings Kingston directly in the path of this, though it has it being around a Category 4 on the intensity consensus. We are looking now at the TVCN. This is another consensus model, and this is maybe just a little bit left or west of the Kingston area, but still would bring that extraordinarily dangerous storm surge into that southeastern portions of the island and creating all types of damage and destruction. Though, again, it's mid-grade Category 3, but we don't look at the intensity models on the anywhere else. When it comes to the intensity models, what we use is the official forecast. And now the official forecast is calling for a Category 5, 160 mile an hour storm. Now we will go over all of that with the intensity and track forecast with the forecaster's discussion. We are going to read this in its entirety. Melissa is likely beginning a period of rapid intensification since both the NOAA P-3 and Air Force Reserve C-130 aircraft sampled the system this morning. The satellite presentation has continued to improve, with cold at -75 to -80 degrees Celsius cloud tops wrapping around the center with hints of an eye starting to appear on visible images. The eye has also become better defined on radar images out of Jamaica with an overall diameter of around 20 nautical miles. In addition, an earlier GMI microwave pass received after the prior advisory showed a well-defined Scion ring on the 37 gigahertz, which is often a harbinger of rapid intensification. Subjective Dorvac intensity estimates were at T5.0 90 knots from SAB and T4.5 77 knots from TAB. The objective estimates from the University of Wisconsin were a little lower but are also quickly rising, and the initial intensity will be set at 80 knots or 90 miles an hour for this advisory, blending those intensity estimates. The hurricane now appears to be moving slowly westward at an estimated motion of 275 degrees at 3 knots. A narrow mid-level ridge has built in to the north of Melissa and should keep the main steering feature over the next 24 to 48 hours to help move the hurricane slowly westward. The deep layer steering vector still has a slight southward component, and it wouldn't be surprising to even see a little south of due west motion occur, like the Google DeepMind ensembles and Euro AI model had been suggesting in the short-term forecast. After the next couple of days, the ridging to the north becomes quickly eroded by a shortwave trough moving across the southeastern United States. The net result of this changing synoptic pattern is that Melissa is expected to turn rather abruptly northward and then northeastward by the early to middle part of next week. Compared to this morning, the track guidance has become even more tightly clustered in the across track direction, and even the 12Z GFS run, which was previous an eastward outlier, is now in better agreement with the track guidance suite, showing a direct landfall in Jamaica. The main uncertainty is related to the amount of acceleration that Melissa will undergo after it turns to the northeast, and there remains large spread in the along track direction in both the deterministic and ensemble guidance in the day 3 to 5 time frame. The NHC forecast is only slightly more poleward compared to the previous forecast over the first 12 to 24 hours and converges very closely to the prior track thereafter. This track is roughly a blend of the latest HCCA and Google DeepMind track guidance. On this track, this brings Melissa's core near Jamaica early on Tuesday and early on Wednesday along the eastern Cuba provinces, where a hurricane watch is now in effect. Rapid intensification appears to have started, and assuming Melissa stays far enough south of Jamaica over the next couple of days, there appear few impediments to its intensification in the short term. Both the hurricane regional models and the Google DeepMind ensemble suggest RI could continue for the next 36 to 48 hours. In fact, once again, 4/5 of the Google DeepMind 50-member ensemble are forecasting a peak intensity of Category 5 intensities. The 12Z HAVS A run also show a peak intensity of Category 5 in 48 hours, and both HAVS A and B have been suggesting a similar peak on and off over the past few days. Given the current trends, the NHC forecast now shows a 140 knot peak in 48 hours, in general agreement with this aggressive guidance. Afterwards, some inner core oscillations, such as eyewall replacement cycles, could lead to fluctuations in intensity before its first landfall in Jamaica. It is worth stressing that there is very little practical difference in the overall impacts of a Category 4 or Category 5 landfall, and Melissa is expected to be at least that intensity when it moves over Jamaica early next week. Land interactions will likely lead to some weakening as it moves northeastward across Jamaica, but the storm will likely also grow in size and is still forecast to be a major hurricane when it moves over Cuba by the middle of this week. Only after this period that the southwesterly shear begins to increase in earnest after it moves into the southwestern Atlantic. The NHC intensity forecast continues to be on the high end of the overall guidance, siding with the higher intensity aids such as the Google DeepMind, which has been the best performing intensity guidance thus far this year, and HAVS-A, but all the hurricane regional models show a peak intensity of at least a Category 4 intensity. Needless to say, there is a very serious situation in terms of catastrophic rainfall, wind, and storm surge hazards for Jamaica, and preparations should be rushed to completion in the area currently under a hurricane warning. Can't stress this one enough. In 36 hours, expecting 155. In 48 hours, we achieved that Category 5 intensity. At the 60-hour mark, it is still remaining 150 miles an hour. So, and even at the 72-hour mark at 130, highly impactful system. Very impactful system. All of this from hours 24 to 72, that's all Category 4 and above, with tapping out there at a Category 5. And Dr. Papin is the one that wrote that. And I can say that right there, this little snippet of a paragraph, that was Dr. Papin speaking personally to everybody. And you don't normally see this in the forecasters' discussion. They are very nervous about what is yet to come. Real quick look at Earth-Null. We're starting out at the surface. We'll jump up to about 5,000 feet. You can see vertical alignment. We're now at 10,000 feet. Again, vertical alignment. And now at 18,000 feet with the vertical alignment. And we'll come up even further. And again, more vertical alignment. And I'm starting to check up into even higher than that. Waiting to see. And when I say way up there, if I see any blip with this, it's only going to be in and around the Category 4, Category 5 range, and it'll be very light if I see anything at all. But I hope I don't, and that's kind of the reason that I've been looking at it. Our hurricane reconnaissance flights are on their way. We have Air Force mission coming in from the ABC Islands. And then we have a NOAA mission. Where are you at? 78 and 18? Where? Hold on. Are we over here? Yeah. We're on the west side of the island. They're on the west side of Jamaica. Hopefully, they're going to be dropping some drops on. Seeing that circle right there makes me wonder if they weren't searching for any kind of distress signal. That's the one thing that will immediately halt a National Hurricane Center or any kind of NOAA or Air Force reconnaissance mission. If there is a distress call out there, I guarantee you, if they're in the region, they will be looking for said craft. They will stop everything of what they're doing and start flying in circles. And if you ever see that, that usually means that folks are in distress, and that is very unfortunate. Our rapid intensification models. DTOPS is all in. Ready to rock and roll. Just sky's the limit. Our ship's RI has finally started to respond some, doesn't. We already know that the rapid intensification cycle is underway. And to see it only being at these percentages and these particular values leads me to believe more of the DTOPS abilities than what we were to get with the ship's rapid intensification. So I do know that the AI rapid intensification, this particular box right here, is the one that we see on the University of Wisconsin's real time outlook and data. But I'm going to give this one and this one a little bit more validity and credibility right now due to the fact that we look at the storm and it is beginning to go haywire. So, rapid intensification is definitely underway. It gained 15 miles an hour in 3 hours, folks. If it gains 35 miles an hour over the course of a 24-hour period, that is considered rapid intensification. It was we could go back to the 11 when it was 70 miles an hour, and here we are at the 5 and it's at 90. You only need 15 more in the next 18 hours. And what do you think? Do you think that that would achieve an extra 15 miles an hour in the next 18 hours? I think so. I really do. I have a funny feeling that the rate of intensification is going to be extreme. And maybe an eye wall replacement cycle helps save some of that overall wind intensity, but still, the damage is going to be done regardless whether that occurs or not. The University of Wisconsin taking a look at our, remote sensing. They are a little bit lower than what we had with the advisory. The advisories got it up to 80 knots. We don't see anything there, even though the National Hurricane Center did, let us know that that the University of Wisconsin was running a little on the low side. And here's something that we haven't seen in a while. We already have a 24% chance of seeing an eye wall replacement cycle. Okay. It was a little too early for that, but sure, we'll roll with it. Looking at the Mimic, this is some of our microwave imagery. And as you can see, it is really beginning to tighten up that inner core, and it's game on, folks. It really is. Our wind speed probabilities. I will scroll down here into parts of Jamaica. I've got your numbers have gone up again. 96% chance of tropical storm force winds for Montego Bay. 71% chance for our 50 knot or 58 mile an hour winds, and a 47% chance for our hurricane force winds there in Montego Bay. For Kingston, it's a guarantee that you are going to get tropical storm force winds, 98%. Yes, okay. And 74% for those 50 knot or 58 mile an hour winds, and 51% for those hurricane force winds. Now, please keep in mind that as the event gets closer, these values will continue to grow. And right now, we are looking at that 51%, and I would imagine that we are going to get a straight set of 99s across the board before it's all said and done with for certain locations. Guantanamo Bay, I do know that the United States military interests have been ordering evacuations there at the military base. We are currently looking at 68% probability for tropical storm force winds, 33% for our 50 knot and 58 mile an hour winds, and a 17% chance for our hurricane force winds. Grand Turk, your percentages have gone up. You are now at 52% for tropical storm force winds, 21% for our 50 knot winds, and 10% for our hurricane force winds. Mayaguana, I still haven't looked it up, and I really don't know where that's at. I believe that it's going to be somewhere there, Cuba, area, maybe one of the islands, just in and around there. But a 68% chance of seeing tropical storm force winds, 38% chance of seeing our 50 knot or 58 mile an hour winds, and a 20% chance of seeing our hurricane force winds. So please, folks, make sure that you're monitoring, these trends. This is exactly what the wind speed probability graphics here that are provided by the National Hurricane Center on their main page. This is what you see. So please take things seriously. And if you really want to know how to read this, they've got a great description here at the top on how to read it, and then your forecast time periods are located right here with your columns of being certain hours. 24, 12, 36, 48, and so on. So that's how you read it. And if you look here, that's how they tell you all how to read it, folks. So please use the products that the National Hurricane Center provide to make decisions for your protection of life and property. Again, there's that disastrous and catastrophic rainfall graphic. The one thing that I will point out here is that area of lower confidence is that. And then we'll run that all the way up. Anywhere within that black line, anywhere here in this area, has noted lower confidence. Notice who's not the lower confidence: Jamaica and the Tiburon Peninsula. It's the only one that doesn't have lower confidence. So that 2 to 4 inches of rain there on the extreme western side looks to be of confidence by the National Hurricane Center. So barring any kind of dramatic shift in track, which is not anticipated, it may be the safest spot on the island to be. So folks there on the eastern side, if you have the abilities, ride out to the western end. Get over there and please stay safe. Our rainfall totals, we've got the 12Z Euro on the left and the 12Z GFS on the right. We do know that the GFS has shifted well to the west and is in almost identical agreement with what we see with some of the Euro's rainfall totals as well. So again, folks, please rush all preparations to completion. This is likely to be the largest, strongest, and most damaging impact that the island of Jamaica has ever seen. Let's go back that far. There may be one back in like the 1617s or early 1800s, back when, there was the piracy and all that other stuff going on, and the expansion from Europe over to the Western Hemisphere. But as far as records are concerned, we have nothing that shows anything remotely close to this. Not even close. Closest we ever came was Hurricane Gilbert in 1988, where it made landfall in Jamaica, in and around Kingston as a high-end Category 3, and that has been the generational or quote-unquote benchmark storm for Jamaica until this week, until this upcoming week. Melissa will be the new benchmark. Key messages for the folks out here, and they are separated into countries. Thank you, Dr. Pappen. Jamaica, multi-day period of damaging winds and heavy rainfall is expected to begin tonight, causing catastrophic and life-threatening flash flooding and numerous landslides, extensive infrastructural damage, long-duration power and communication outages, and a potentially prolonged isolation of communities is likely. A life-threatening storm surge is also likely along portions of the southern coast early next week. All preparations should be completed by today and a rush to immediate completion if preparations are not done yet. For Haiti, catastrophic and life-threatening flash flooding and landslides are expected across southwestern Haiti into early next week, likely causing extensive infrastructural damage and potentially prolonged isolation of communities. Strong winds could also potentially last for a day or more over the Tiburon Peninsula. For the Dominican Republic, heavy rainfall could produce catastrophic flash flooding and numerous landslides in the southern portion of the country. And for eastern Cuba, southeast Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos, I'm going to include the central Bahamas in on this as well. Monitor Melissa closely. There is an increasing risk of significant storm surge, damaging wind, and heavy rainfall by the middle of next week. In eastern Cuba, the risk of life-threatening flash flooding and landslides is increasing. A hurricane watch is now in effect for portions of eastern Cuba. So, big-time threats, folks. It's a generational storm. Melissa will be retired. I'm 100% confident on that. Now, what I have here, I've pulled up HAVS B, and I should pull up HAVS A because that's the one that gets to a Category 5 intensity. What I have here is HAVS A overlaid with the sea surface temperatures. Now, I know I have received a couple questions and comments regarding the upwelling and how slow that the storm is moving, and shouldn't it, cause the cooler waters to basically halt the intensification rate. Well, here is HAVS A, very comparable since it will receive a Category 5 intensity with this particular model. You could see some of that upwelling starting to kind of follow it, but it doesn't really stick around very long. Now, when it finally makes its stop and it starts to turn up to the north, that's when you see a good amount of cooler water starting to rise to the surface in and around 24, 25 degrees Celsius, which is a far cry from the 30, 31 that we're looking at now. And as it moves over the island, you could see, though, there's not a lot and this only goes out 96. HAVS B allows us to go a little bit further because of its waterborne physics there to the B side of the model. So again, as you could see, this is all about the sea surface temperatures, folks. That's all this is about. This is the only reason that I'm showing this, is to give an example of what the upwelling may look like and occur as this storm is beginning its approach towards Jamaica. And then, as you could see, even moving out, once it gets up about 28 degrees north, then it is in these cooler waters and should definitely begin to weaken quickly, although it will be likely trying to make a extratropical transition at that point. Looking at a simulated IR, you could see it is beginning to kind of shed some of those deep eye, like cleared eye and all that other stuff. It's starting to kind of maybe shed some of those tropical characteristics in the very, very late end of the run. It's certainly starting to take its toll on the storm as far as the shear and the overall water temperatures. But also, please keep in mind that Bermuda, y'all got to keep a watch on this. And just to kind of give people an idea, and actually I'll run the parent on this so everybody can see in a wide out version what we're talking about when we were speaking about that rain. And it is catastrophic in nature. Hell, that's too far out. We'll come in, we'll get closer. As you could see, a lot of that rain, and please keep in mind that this is simulated radar. This is not a forecast. And there it goes. Category 5 system, probably right in that range, right in here, that 48-hour range. That's Cat 5. And then, boom. With an unbelievable amount of rain associated with it. It really is. All right, using the powers of the database that is tied to the page, I am going to refresh this. Hopefully, they do not yell at me anymore here for Jamaica. Come on, guys, don't yell at me. All right, good deal. They have not issued an update just yet. This one is at 2 p.m. So, we're hoping that we'll get a little bit of official correspondence here in the near future. With the government of Haiti, we do not have any recent release on that, and a lot of these things, it'll take time for it to come out after the advisory was issued. For the Dominican Republic, again, we are waiting on more correspondence from them, but again, please follow your official sources. As far as Cuba is concerned, we have a fresh advisory here that was issued at 6 p.m. So, folks there in Cuba, now that you have a hurricane watch issued for your area, please follow your official sources. For the Bahamas, this is the 6 p.m. update. And as you could see here, they are starting to release bulletins and stuff for their residents as well. So please, folks, again, follow the official sources. Jumping over to the Turks and Caicos. They haven't issued anything yet. Their last issuance was August 16th regarding Hurricane Aaron. I would imagine that we are going to see something there, but it just seems like they don't. Wait a minute. What do we got here? That will take us to Facebook. What did you post? Oh, they posted the copy of the Bahamas. Okay. All right. So the Turks and Caicos posted this. And last but not least, we're going to jump over to the Caymans because, yep, you guys are, you're still there. The threat level has reduced dramatically for you guys over the last 24, 36 hours, but we still have it there. You guys have got a significant risk of rough surf, so please stay out of the water. And for the folks there in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, you're going to be a little bit closer. So you may get a little bit of peripheral wind of some sort, just increase with the pressure gradient. You may get some wind, but nothing of significant impact at all. Your biggest threat would be from the water. Please stay out of the water. All right, now I am going to check for any questions. Meaning their hurricane hunters could be in trouble. No, Christy, that is, a distress call from a ship, a boat, or anything like that gets caught up in that rough surf. The National Hurricane Center and NOAA and the Air Force Reconnaissance, while they do like to prioritize getting the information for or from the storm itself, the protection of life is always the number one priority. They will immediately halt a mission to fly around to search for those that may be in trouble and in distress to make sure that there is no loss of life. That again is always the number one priority. Yes. I appreciate your input there, David. Here over on YouTube. You're appreciate the looking out there. Definitely. We're always in and involved with trying to communicate. We're all on the same team here. We don't want anybody to succumb to the impacts. Oh Lord. We've got James, highlighter watch. highlighter watch, sir. To members of the team, um, keep an eye out for a highlighter, an updated that pink updated statement that we none of us ever like to see. Yeah, we're definitely going to be on highlighter watch with that. The winds are getting up. Now, granted, this is flight level wind speed, but it's not in there yet, and we're already looking at a 90 knot wind speed, and it is continuing to around 90 knots. I know that James. I know you're on cesium. I don't dare try to pull cesium up on the computer because I don't need the computer to go into its own cesium and just decide to cease. I know that takes a ton of RAM to run that 3D site, and I've got way too many tabs open to try to even attempt that. Uh, if it wasn't for the fact that we had all the different governments up, I may, but being that we've got all the official sources up, I feel that would be a little risky. May cause the entire computer to just say, all right, I've had enough. Yeah. Yo, I know you are there, Bubba. I know you are. I know you're working at it. Saying for the wins. What's the newest prediction? All right, Sharon, I've got you there. Sharon on Facebook is asking for the wins. Here is the current 5 p.m. discussion. Primary advisory intensity values. It is undergoing rapid intensification, and its highest wind values now are forecasted to become a 160 mile an hour Category 5 hurricane, which would make the third Category 5 hurricane in the basin, the Atlantic basin, for this season. We have certainly not seen quantity with the storms, but boy, we've had plenty of quality with the storms. And the last time that we had three Category 5s in one season was all the way back in 2005. And I shouldn't have to explain the 2005 season to folks because that's the one to where we were like, okay, we're into the Greek letters, we're into the Greek alphabet. This sucks. Please make it stop. And then it did. And then we ended up experiencing, we didn't think that anything was ever going to get that worse. And then 2020 decided to come around, and it's been screwball ever since. As far as the tropics is concerned, with 30 named storms in one season, we definitely did not ever see that coming. And yeah, that season is what caused the Greek alphabet to be retired and the supplemental name list get created for the basin because other cultures had a very, very difficult time of trying to make a determination between a lot of the terminologies and the names. They were very similar to one another. So when you were speaking about certain storms like Theta and Eta and all that other stuff, it left for way too much confusion, way too similar in the names. So they said, nope, well, we're going to take the Greek names, we're going to retire that, and now we have the supplement name list. All right, getting over to our Euro ensembles. This is the 12Z Euro Legacy. There is some of that along track spread, and it's a lot to do with some of the speed itself. And now here we're out 5 days, 6 days. Again, folks there in Bermuda, you're going to have to keep a watch on this because unfortunately the theme of the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season is Bermuda watch out. If it's been anything of significance, it's always Bermuda watch out. And I am sure that the folks there in Bermuda are looking forward to November 30th and the end of hurricane season. I mean, hell, right now I'd be looking forward to Halloween and, maybe November 1st. Once we get Melissa out of here, I don't think we're going to see much more than that. Comparing the Euro legacy with the GEFS legacy, and as you could see here, we run it forward, a lot of the ensemble members and the highest amount of probability will lead to a direct landfall into the island of Jamaica. Scrolling over to our Euro AI, please keep in mind that the Euro AI was mentioned here by the National Hurricane Center discussion at the 5 p.m. for its track. And as you can see here, there is a great amount of agreement. Now, please keep in mind, again, like I've said a few lives in a row now, the Euro AI does really, really good with track, not so much with intensity. All right, it's already at 974 millibars, which should put every single line that you see right there in the red. I see a lot more blue than I see red, which is weaker. And so we're not really looking at this for intensity, but potential track. And there is a large kind of cluster there right in and around the eastern portions of the island. Now we talk about the monster, and that is the Google DeepMind. As we can see here, this thing it's performed extraordinarily well this year. Our mean has this making landfall potentially as a category 4, or actually it is a category 4 still with 119 knots of wind speed, and it's actually in the center of the island. So it's been on land for a little bit at this point in time at 119 knots. Let's see if I can come back off. And we're at 123 knots, 128 knots, right as it was making landfall. So your high-end category 4 at, oh, nope, that's not the right model. Damn it. It's difficult because you got to get it right on the mean. There's the mean, and so it was 123 knots for the ensemble mean, which is still high-end category 4. So again, and it was calling, if we go back, there's some of these models that are just disgusting. So much so that we have been showing it over and over again. The overall mean of all of the ensemble members is located down here. This is the average, and it comes out to be 931 millibars. To see them have to create an entirely new category for things at below 920 millibars, that makes me sick. And as you could see here, there are a ton of these that are 920 and below. I'm going to count the ones that aren't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So 34% keeps it above 920, and 66% put it at 920 or lower. That would definitely equate to a category 5 system, no doubt about it. Jumping over now to our cyclonic vorticity. We have the Euro on the left, the GFS on the right. This is the 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. This is to measure areas of rotation or spin at approximately 5,000 feet above the ocean surface. As we run this forward, you will see that both of them, there's maybe a little bit of a timing discrepancy and not much off of where they're talking about landfall. So we are now getting that agreement between the models. They are getting awfully close to one another, which leads to a higher confidence in that potential scenario being the likely outcome. Looking at our humidity models. Now, the reason that we are looking at this, I do not have this for the entire Atlantic. I zoomed this in down onto the Caribbean. I want to highlight the dry air that is off to the west that could be a temporary impediment, maybe just causing a dry slot. Right now it doesn't look like it. Maybe once it starts to interact with land, we could get a little bit of that dry air to filter in there and not necessarily allow for re-intensification of the system as it moves off Jamaica and heads towards Cuba. We may be able to just keep it mitigated, maybe not, weaken it any, but not allowing it to like rapidly reconsolidate and reorganize. That would be at least helpful for our friends up there in Cuba. We have the 500 millibar level on the top and the 700 millibar level on the bottom. This is to represent the areas of the atmosphere between 10 and 18,000 feet. Browns represent our dry air, greens represent our moisture, with the as always, with the euro on the left and the GFS on the right. If we run this forward, we will see there's Melissa, very, very well defined pocket of moisture. And then, it hits the island. And look, you see that little bit of brown, especially on the top two graphics, that try to end up trailing it. It's a question, because we do know that southwesterly shear will begin to take effect. But how much and when is the question, and then if we could get some of that dry air, as you could see here at hour 120 on both models, we see some of that dry air in training here on the southern side with the GFS. You could see that entrainment beginning to occur right there. And then with the euro itself, the core of the storm has already been exposed and punched by that dry air. So that's kind of what we're looking at here, and in hopes that some of that dry air may be able to just influence it. Now, I am going to run this back, and we are going to run this forward, because I am now going to kind of talk about the frontal boundaries that are coming there off of the United States. As you can see, by day 3, 72 hours, it is anticipated, with that first shortwave trough and the frontal boundary tied to it, clearing the southern Florida peninsula. That is the protectant of the United States interest. And then there is another reinforcing blast that is unfortunately going to cause me to have to get out some Florida style clothes, because it is going to get a little chilly up here into the panhandle. And I'm originally from southern Florida, where we don't deal with much for ice, and last year we had a damn snowstorm. So I'm going to be prepared this year, certainly. And if it snows again, I'm moving to the equator. This way you can't catch me with no snow. I'm a Florida native and a southern Florida native. Snow is probably the worst 4-letter word that I can think of, on top of all the other words that people would think that the 4-letter words that are worse. Snow for me is about as bad as it can get. Like you tell me to go snow myself, and that I find that kind of offensive. Just kidding. But that's worse than, some of the other 4-letter words that you could use. In my personal opinion, I don't do cold weather very well. Now, what we have here is our deep layer wind shear. Euro on the left, GFS on the right. This is going to kind of highlight the areas between around 5,000 to 40,000 feet into the atmosphere. And we are looking for, obviously, any type of shear that would be impacting that. You can clearly see the subtropical jet stream to the north of if this thing was in the southwestern Atlantic, it wouldn't be a thing at all. But it is in the Caribbean, and that is a completely different ball game. Now, the overall intensities of the euro are not as strong as what we saw with some of the earlier deterministic runs, but still very impactful nonetheless. And as you can see, there comes those frontal boundaries, and just eat it up and get it out of here. But of course, before we get it out of here, hey, Bermuda, keep an eye on it, please. Our simulated infrared satellites. This is going to be kind of scary, folks. As you could see, a very well-defined and clear eye on both models here at the 60-hour mark. with the GFS looking absolutely petrifying scary, with a very clear eye and pretty much right on top of Kingston. And that being the capital of Jamaica would be absolutely devastating. The Euro, on the other hand, is now about 6 hours behind, but pretty much hits the same spot and then begins to move out into the open waters. And as you can see, that shear really starts to impact and affect that system, and it would turn post-tropical. They may wait till it gets past Bermuda to put a classification on that, the final advisory, but we'll wait and see exactly what they've got with that. Checking in with the University of Miami and their water. As you could see with the Oceanic Key content, it's green light, folks. It's all systems go for Melissa. And that water is very deep as well. That was one of the reasons why I showed the halves sea surface temperatures and the potential of upwelling, just to kind of highlight that the warm waters are so deep that upwelling is going to be very difficult to occur, and you will need an extremely strong system, which it is forecast to become, to really start to pull that upwelling. And we'll see exactly what happens from there. All right. I'm going to check again, see if we've got any questions. Still no snow. Man, W-Chan, man, if you'd have been up here into the Panhandle last year, I mean, like that was Florida's version of Armageddon. Like 9-10 inches over there near Pensacola, here around Tallahassee. Granted, if you would have went 10 miles north of me, you would have gotten a decent amount of snow. We got this ridiculous mix of rain, freezing rain, sleet, and then snow, and then some more sleet, and then a ton of freezing rain, and then some more sleet, and then some snow. And man, I'm telling you, we had a buffet and smorgasbord of just absolute no out there. It took days for that stuff to melt. And if you figure we're in the state of Florida, we don't have plows, salt trucks, none of that. We don't have any of that. So when it occurred, it basically paralyzed the Panhandle, and I-10 was closed down for days, and they were honestly scraping, plowing, trying to salt and plow and all this other stuff. Interstate 10 from Pensacola to I-75 near Lake City and Gainesville. We're talking hundreds of miles of you've got to figure out how to clear this interstate, and it was hell. I'm not gonna lie, it really was. I don't ever want to go through that again. And being that you, sir, just moved from Denver, you know all about snow. And once you are down here in Florida for an extended period of time, and you go through a couple of those summers, and your blood really starts to thin out due to the fact of all of the heat and the humidity. When it gets to about 60 degrees, it might be a little chilly, and especially if there's a wind. If it snows, oh Lord! I mean, you'll scare Floridians more with the word snow than you will with the word hurricane. And like I said, if you just go out there and yell, "Snow's coming! Snow's coming!" one of two things are going to happen. Either everybody's going to run and get prepared, or two, they are going to look to have you Baker acted. Because we do live in Florida, and snow is not on the forecast. Except for that one time. I mean, I've seen it snow a couple times throughout my life in the state, but nothing like what we had last year. That was crazy. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, hey, I can tell you this, W-Chan over there, for being a Florida native, there are some times that you will celebrate the New Year's and it be 90 degrees outside. And then about 2 days, 3 days later, it's probably about 30 degrees outside. If you get that real warm temperature in Christmas and New Year's, man, as soon as the New Year's hits and January pops in, oh, here it comes. And February is usually the coldest month around here. But then again, depending on where you're at there in Florida, if you are south of the I 4 corridor, it's usually a little warmer. If you're north of the I 4 corridor, maybe in and around like the Villages, Ocala, maybe they're in and around the East Coast or whatever, some of that wind and those temperatures that we get coming from the continental portion of the United States doesn't really go over the warm waters of either the Gulf or the Atlantic, so it doesn't really kind of moderate the air temperature. And then at that point, you can see a little bit more frost, a little bit more freeze north of the I 4 corridor. Not saying that it's not possible south of the I 4 corridor, but it is a lot less common south of the I 4 corridor. There's a lot of heat that stretches across the central portion of the peninsula due to the urban island effects of, you're looking at Tampa, St. Petersburg on the coast, then you're looking at Orlando kind of right in the middle. Lakeland kind of give you a little bit, not a lot, but enough there. And then, of course, the highway with all of the nightmare traffic that is known as I 4. I don't have to explain that. If anybody's driven I 4, and that's a nightmare. All right, out here into the Eastern Pacific, we now have Tropical Storm Sonia. I'm going to show you the track, tell you that it has 50-mile-an-hour winds. It is not necessarily, we do not see the H on this. It is forecast to reach around 70 miles an hour of maximum intensity, which means that we could squeeze out a minimal Category 1 hurricane real quick. But then it's going to die out here with the fishes. So that's why I have no models. I am not going to try to spend much more time on it than I already have, because it is absolutely no threat to land. It is basically a fish storm and a name stealer. Jumping out to the Western Pacific, we had the final advisory issued on Changi out here. Finally has succumbed to the environment, but we also have Invest 92A here in the Arabian Sea and Invest 94B in the Bay of Bengal. Invest 94B really needs to be monitored because any type of tropical cyclone there in the Bay of Bengal, depending on where it hits, could lead to really, really catastrophic storm surge. And this area here in the northern and the eastern portions of the Bay of Bengal is the most highest storm surge prone area on the planet. So that just kind of give everybody an idea. You get a tropical storm there, you may get 10 feet of storm surge with a 50-mile-an-hour tropical storm. You never heard of anything like that in the Atlantic basin, but that's very possible there. And if you get something high end, you could be looking at, you're going to be measured them in many, many feet. You could almost measure the storm surge in yards or meters, because feet, you're not necessarily doing it justice. You need a lot more than just that. All right, everybody, that's about all that I've got here. Global Tropics Hazards Outlook again. Once we get through this Melissa thing, that's pretty much it for the Atlantic Basin. We've been scheduled to go live every single night through Halloween, and it does look like that this Melissa and Halloween are going to kind of line up. After Halloween, we will not be live every single night. We will go back to our 40% threshold, to where if the outlook contains a highlighted area of interest with 40% or higher, we will be live at 6 p.m. that night. But I don't think so. We may get a homegrown, may come back, have 2-3 days worth of discussions here in some part of November. but it's kind of unlikely. It looks like the winter pattern is going to try to take hold. But regardless, we will obviously put out all the information as far as our end of season special, and for the folks on YouTube, because we've always broadcast to Facebook. We've been very exclusive to one particular social media platform, and folks have been, trying to get us to branch out to other social media platforms, and we did to YouTube this year. So for the folks on YouTube, when we get to the end of the season, we have our trivia night of the end of the season. It's kind of like a little celebration, and we do trivia questions like you would see in some of your bars, to where you get like a certain amount of time, and the quicker you answer the question, the more points you get. Obviously, if you get it wrong, you don't get any points for that question. But we've done that over the last few years, and that has been pretty fun. Gotten good feedback. A lot of people enjoy it. We usually get a decent amount of attendance with that. So everybody can play free. We don't ever charge anybody anything. We don't want anybody's money. We just want to make sure that at the end of the day, after the storm passes, that, hey, stop by and say hi. We know you're okay. All right, everybody, I am going to get off here for now. I will be back live at 10:45 Eastern here tonight to go over the 11 p.m. primary advisory. So until then, folks down there in the warned area, please rush all your preparations to completion and then shelter in place. Unless you have the opportunity to get to the western side of Jamaica, then do that. I would highly recommend that. If you could get on the western side of where the core is, and right now we don't know where the core is going to go, but if you can get on the western side of it and be on the western side of it, it's going to be a lot better than being on the other side. I can promise that. So until then, we'll talk to you all here in about another 3.5 hours. Stay safe, everybody. Bye for now.